Wow, what a surprise. Russell Wilson isn't going to be traded from the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson, although you've been told for the past 2-3 weeks that he was going to be on another team start next season, he's never going to touch a Seahawks jersey again. He's never going to take a single snap on the Seattle Seahawks field for the rest of his career. He's going to stay in Seattle. How crazy is that? Now, no matter how much you have been told that Russell Wilson is going to be traded, it was basically never going to happen. Last video, we watched the interview and saw exactly what Russell Wilson said, which was taken out of context to become quotes that basically pushed for him to be traded from the media. And when we actually watched the interview, it really didn't seem like he was that upset. He said he didn't want to get hit 400 times, which makes sense. He said he wants to be a little bit more involved in who the Seahawks pick up in the offseason. When he was asked if he is available, he said that's a Seahawks question, because guess what? He can't answer the availability of himself, because that is literally a question for the front office of the Seattle Seahawks, who would be the ones trading him or looking for the trade. Because really, as a player, you don't know if you're available or not. You don't know if you'll be traded or not, because DeAndre Hopkins, you thought he was one of the best wide receivers in the league. He got traded for a bag of Doritos and a second-round pick. I mean, anyone could be traded at that point. But, you know, even though you've been told Russell Wilson's going to be traded, he's not going to be traded. He said he wants to stay in Seattle forever. Maybe he won't stay in Seattle forever, but at least he's going to be there next year, and that's really all that matters. Of course, there are a bunch of insider people on social media who have said that sources have told them that the Seahawks aren't going to trade Russell Wilson. Of course, that's pretty obvious, but it is good to see people actually saying that it's not going to happen from sources, because of course sources said the Seahawks were looking to trade Russell Wilson, but apparently that wasn't true. But the main reason why it's almost completely set in stone and guaranteed that Russell Wilson is going to be with the Seahawks next year is that his guaranteed money has been given to him. He's gotten his guaranteed money. The date for the Seahawks to kind of trade him before they take the cap hit from the guaranteed money has passed. If they were going to trade Russell Wilson to try and save money or do anything, they would have traded him before that date. And guess what? They didn't do it. Now, Russell Wilson, if he was traded now, the Seahawks, who already have literally no money, would have even less money because they'd be taking a huge cap hit. So with an insane cap hit, there's no monetary reason to trade him. With Russell Wilson not really being that upset at the Seahawks, there's really no personal reason to trade him. And Russell Wilson has a no trade clause. He probably doesn't want to be traded anyway. You know, it really didn't make any sense why Russell Wilson was in these whole trade talk things. It's kind of every single offseason, he gets at least something talked about, ooh, will he be leaving Seattle because his offensive line sucks? I mean, it's not going to happen. Maybe he does leave if the Seahawks continue to do absolutely nothing, but that's something that you gotta worry about later on in the offseason. Because I do think the Seahawks, now that they've been publicly called out by Russell Wilson, are going to kind of have their hand forced to work on the offensive line in free agency, in the draft, or anything in the offseason. But if they don't, that is where the problems might arise. So it's still definitely a big issue for the Seahawks, and it's something that they have to do this offseason, because maybe if this offseason they just completely neglect the offensive line for some ungodly reason, and Russell Wilson continues to get sacked 40-50 times next year, maybe he will actually want out next offseason. Maybe he will leave when his contract is up. Really, there are so many things that could happen if they don't focus on offensive line, but I think for Russell Wilson, if the Seahawks at least try to get an offensive lineman, say they go out and draft 2 offensive linemen in the draft, pick up 1 or 2, 3 offensive linemen in free agency if they can find a way to get any money, and it still happens to be a bad offensive line, it doesn't really work. I think Russell Wilson would still see that they put in the effort and he wouldn't be that upset. If they go and get absolutely nobody and Russell Wilson still continues to get hit 40 times a season, that's where the problems will arise. But since we won't know if the Seahawks build a good offensive line until later on in the offseason, that's something that we can't focus on right now. What we know right now is Russell Wilson is on the Seahawks. He is going to play next season with the Seattle Seahawks, and he is going to be playing behind an offensive line that the Seattle Seahawks front office puts together for him. Whether that offensive line is going to be good or not is something we will have to wait and see. But I think at least if they put some effort into building the offensive line, Russell Wilson will be okay, and hopefully the offensive line will work out well enough, and maybe Russell Wilson will be sacked less than 40 times for the first time in like 8 years. But with it basically set in stone that Russell Wilson isn't going to be traded, I just want to take a look back at the absolute worst take I've ever seen in my life. You know, there have been some really bad takes, like Max Kellerman deliberately saying multiple times that he wants Andre Iguodala taking the final shot over Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, or anybody, and that's bad. However, this guy right here saying the Seahawks are not a Super Bowl team, nowhere close to a Super Bowl team, is absolutely wild. Here's the clip.
Russell Wilson is putting a for sale sign on himself. I never thought Russ would finish his career in Seattle. There have always been talks of uneasiness. He let you know that he wants out. The Seattle Seahawks are not close to being a Super Bowl team. Now is absolutely the time to field offers.
But yeah, if the Seahawks aren't near a Super Bowl team, I don't know what teams are. Maybe the Chiefs and the Buccaneers because they made it last year. Maybe the Bills and the Packers because they were a game away. But the Seahawks, who have amazing skilled position players with the wide receivers of DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and a bunch of solid guys behind him, they're not good enough. You know, the running back situation with Rashad Penny and maybe Chris Carson, and if we don't get Chris Carson back, we still have some pretty solid guys behind Rashad Penny, and Rashad Penny can definitely be a number one if he continues to progress and get better. It's not like that's good. It's not like solid tight ends are a good thing to have. It's not like Russell Wilson's a potential MVP candidate every single year when he has a horrible offensive line, and if we got one or two pieces that are pretty solid on the offensive line, he'd be a god tier quarterback. Not like that's a thing. It's not like the Seahawks defense was top 10, top 5 in the league when everyone wasn't injured in the second half of the season after they got Carlos Dunlap, who definitely proved to be a big help in the pass rush. It's not like the Seahawks team is anywhere near the Super Bowl when literally their only hole that they have on the team is offensive line and maybe some pass rush. You know, maybe Carlos Dunlap will get cut because he's going to take $14 million and the Seahawks want to use that for offensive line. Still think we're pretty solid because Alton Robinson's nice. We haven't even been able to see Darrell Taylor, and LJ Collier actually was half decent last year. I mean, the Seahawks have a lot of things that they can do to get close to a Super Bowl, if not make it to a Super Bowl. They are a very talented team. They're just missing a few key pieces at the offensive line spot, which really messes everything up. But they are a super talented team, and when everyone is healthy, everyone is playing, they are a force to be reckoned with. We saw that with the defense in the second half of the season, and with a new offensive coordinator and probably a more dynamic offense, with all the skilled position players and the amazing quarterback that we have in Russell Wilson, we are definitely somewhat close to being a Super Bowl team. We need an offensive line, maybe some pass rushers if we get rid of Carlos Dunlap. But really, we don't have that many holes, and we are definitely near being a Super Bowl contender. But I mean, that's definitely a really extreme example of what people have been saying. I mean, there's been some half-decent points that have been made, some really bad points like that, guys. It's just absolutely wild to me that that guy said that the Seahawks are nowhere near a Super Bowl team, because we definitely are. We're definitely pretty close. All we need is an offensive line to protect Russell Wilson, and he's definitely going to be a lot better than he has been in the last few years, and he's been absolutely amazing the past few years. And I mean, really, we are close to a Super Bowl team. Russell Wilson really just needs an offensive line. If the Seahawks can focus offensive line in this offseason, get maybe one or two good pieces that can at least come in and help, it's definitely going to be a good situation for Russell Wilson going into next season. Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl proved that an offensive line is definitely needed to be a great quarterback, and with Russell Wilson being an insanely good, great quarterback with a bad offensive line is just proof enough that if he gets a good offensive line, he can definitely be MVP consistently for as long as he has that good offensive line. But we'll see what happens. Really, it all matters what the Seahawks do in this offseason. Maybe Russell Wilson, if the Seahawks do nothing, will win out next season. Maybe if he keeps getting hit, he'll leave after his contract is up. We'll see what happens, but right now, I definitely think we're in a good situation with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks as long as they do something this offseason to focus offensive line. But with that, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know down below in the comments what you think about the whole situation. Russell Wilson isn't going to be traded. The rumors are basically over. And let me know if you think the Seattle Seahawks are going to go for offensive linemen, and if so, who do you think they'll actually end up getting? But with that, that's going to do it for this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.